Welcome back, guys. We are back on the Rave Hackers channel. I am Summer. If you don't know me already, I am the owner, operator, writer for ravehackers.com, link below. Today I am super excited. We are talking about something that is, I would say, pretty important when it comes to going to festivals. There are going to be 4 different things that I am going to be budgeting for when it comes to a festival. I see 9 out of 10 times I am having to actually go somewhere for a festival. I'm not having to go, just down the street, for single night events and things like that. I mean, I go to a lot of shows here in the city, but when it comes to like festivals, multiple day events, I am usually having to go out of state for that. So this year, I actually am getting the opportunity to do my first non-camping festival, which is kind of what I'm basing this video on. So this is going to be all about how I budget and travel for a festival featuring my Lights All Night trip at the end of the year to Dallas. So there are going to be 4 different things that I'm going to be paying attention to when it comes to festivals and planning for those traveling festivals. So essentially first is going to be ticket prices, and then first is going to be ticket prices, next is going to be my hotel, Airbnb, and then I'm going to have transportation, whether that is driving or flying. There are options for both in my Google spreadsheet down below if you check out the link down there. And then the last thing is going to be your micro cost or your costs while there. So we're going to go ahead and just dive right in. I'm going to walk you through how I essentially factor all of these things in and then plan out my trips. So there are a couple different things when it comes to festivals that I know I'm obviously not going to be able to change. So festival ticket price, any camping options if you are going to be camping, and then of course my hotel and Airbnb. Those are going to be more or less what I consider fixed costs. It's not going to change. So the first thing that I always like to look at when it comes to my tickets is I look at the cheapest option that I'm looking at, which is usually GA, and then sometimes if it's going to be a little bit cheaper tickets, I'll consider VIP, but 9 times out of 10 I'm going with the GA ticket just because I personally would rather spend my money other places rather than having like an accelerated viewing area or whatever, because I don't personally find myself sitting in the front very often. It's more so I'm kind of in the back where there's more fresh air, less people touching me. I'm also somebody who carries a lot in their bags at festivals, so I am kind of paranoid about getting pickpocketed, so I like to be in the back. But so another thing that I always like to look at when it comes to tickets is if there is a payment plan available. So for Lights All Night, you'll notice that there is a payment plan available if you purchase tickets soon enough in advance. I decided to go with the GA tickets for Lights All Night. That means that I am going to be spending this much right here on my tickets. And if you do click on my Google Excel sheet, I am being completely transparent with my costs. Everything that I am spending or budgeting for this festival is going to be in there, and you can see exactly what this is going to be based off of. And some of the things are based off of like averages, so like $33 is the average amount that a person spends every day on food, things like that, because I don't tend to eat out a lot, but I do tend to drink a lot of coffee, get a lot of snacks, things like that. So I do like to factor those in just because it does tend to rack up your bill over time. So once I've decided what my ticket is going to be, I'll go ahead and plug that into my Google Excel sheet just so that I can see what I'm already at in terms of total wise. From there, I like to factor in my Airbnb. So the way that I tend to go about doing this is I will see where my location is going to be at. So that is going to be Dallas Market Hall. So what I will do is I will drop a pin in Dallas Market Hall down there, and then on a map I will do I would say probably 5 to 10 miles, maybe 15 miles, depending on where the location is, and then where I guess essentially most of either the hotels and the Airbnbs are going to be located in your area. So what you're going to want to do is I try and factor in, you know, 5 to 10 miles from my venue location, and then about 5 to 10 miles from wherever the other main accommodations and activities are. So like downtown area, hiking, lakes, things like that. I'm a big believer in Airbnb. I've gotten a lot of different types of Airbnbs. I'm usually somebody, and my boyfriend as well, like to spend our money on experiences instead of spending our money on a place to sleep. So we do tend to go with like the cheaper options. Obviously, depending on where you're going for the festival is going to determine if it's going to be cheap. The way that I usually look at it is if I'm not really ready to buy my Airbnb, or if I'm still looking to get just like my baseline prices, I'll go ahead and I'll make a range. So I'll find the cheapest Airbnb that I can find that I think I'm willing to stay in, because, you know, sometimes the really, really cheap ones are kind of sketchy. And then I'll look at the most expensive one that I'm willing to consider that I think my budget could handle. And then I just kind of keep that range in mind as I'm going forward with my numbers. My check sheet and spreadsheet down below does not accommodate for a range, so you could always do like the middle of that. That's always like a really safe bet. So that's kind of how I factor in my Airbnb. And then from there, you also want to make sure that, you know, and this kind of goes into the next one, but how far your Airbnb and your venue are going to be from the airport. So like when I went to Greensboro, we were not necessarily close to an airport for base Nectar New Year's this past year. So we would have had to drive a pretty decent way from the airport, which, I mean, luckily enough, we drove from Indiana. But, you know, some people came from California and Canada and stuff like that. So like, they had a bit of a drive, so, you know, depending on how far you are from the airport was also going to determine if, you know, do you want just to pay that extra money for an Uber or a Lyft to get to and from, which is totally fine. I've definitely done that. Or are you going to want to get a rental car? You know, are you in a location where the amenities and activities that you want to go to outside of the festival are not close to you? So all things that you want to take into account that are going to kind of help you decide on your next section, which is going to be your transportation. So for transportation, you need to be looking at, you know, are you flying? And if you are flying, there are a couple different tips and kind of tricks that I use. If you're not familiar, Hopper is an amazing app. I use it so much when, you know, my boyfriend and I were long distance. I would go to Washington, D.C. like once every month, every other month, and I was buying like $150 round trip tickets. And I was doing that all through Hopper. Essentially, you just let them know the dates that you're looking for, and it allows you to plug in like your leaving location and your destination location, and then it alerts you when it has like the cheapest tickets or if you should keep watching. Typically what I've found is about 6 weeks out from whenever you're looking to have your ticket leave by, that's usually when the tickets are going to be the cheapest. So, you know, if you're not looking to download an app, Hopper is a really great option, and if you don't want to use that, I recommend about every 6 weeks before your date to leave to look at tickets, because that's usually about when they're the cheapest. So if you are going to go with the rental car route, or if you are going to be driving, two things that you need to keep in mind are the cost of gas. And don't forget that gas could be more expensive as you're driving through certain areas, if you're going to be driving from home, or if you're going to be renting a car when you get there. You know, just make sure that you're encompassing for how many miles you're going to be driving and how many miles per gallon that your car is going to be able to afford. So the last thing that I always budget in, and this is the micro cost section on that Google Excel sheet that's in the link below, but essentially these are my costs while there. So these are any additional things that I see that are kind of extra for me. I'm willing to do them if I have the money to do them, but this is also where I help kind of control and shrink my budget as it's needed. So essentially this is where I consider in things like food, alcohol, that, you know, going out, eating, in like the venues and things like that. That's kind of what I consider in that section. And then I also have a section for like tourist activities. Me and my boyfriend are going to be in Dallas for a couple days extra after the festival, so we are going to be doing some extra things. I think some of them may cost money, so I just want to make sure that I'm accounting for those costs in my overall budget. The other thing that I always factor in here is extra Ubers and Lyfts. So if you are going to be going from like the airport to your hotel and you're not going to need any extra transportation from that, then, you know, I would put that Uber Lyft cost. You can put that either here or in transportation. It doesn't really matter. Just make sure that you know what you're accounting for within the sections that are in the Google sheet. The last thing that I always factor in here as well is, if you know me, I love merch, I love souvenirs, I love t-shirts and all of that stuff. So I always factor in an extra section because, albeit I don't have to have them, I would really like to have them. So I always make sure that I am accounting for that overall cost, because it can get a little pricey if you're gonna get a couple shirts or even a sweatshirt. You know, Base Nectar is gonna be at Lights All Night, so I guarantee if they have Base Nectar merch, I will be very likely getting Base Nectar merch. So overall, that is all of the things that I do to budget prepare for a traveling festival. I am gonna have a couple other things about Lights All Night and kind of how I'm preparing for that here over the next couple weeks. So make sure that you subscribe. Make sure that you hit that link down below in the description so you can check out my blog. There's tons of different information about Bonnaroo, Forest. There's gonna be a whole section about Lights All Night. So you can make sure that everything is staying up to date and you're keeping in the loop. So I hope you guys enjoyed the content. Like, subscribe down below, and watch out for more Rave Hackers.